In a time and place when you can work from anywhere.
Two ladies in their mid to late 27s have decided to.
And they're calling it workationing.
The ladies are in Vegas for the FreedomFest conference.
And it's been a real shit show.
Did that guy just offer to pay me for sex?
What happens when successful men get creepy?
Does the Liberty Movement have a skeezer problem?
This is the Workationing Podcast. So not to be cliche, but I'm kind of ready to leave Vegas.
Yeah, I'm also ready to leave Las Vegas. I've been listening to that Sheryl Crow song. I'm ready to GTFO.
I don't know that one, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, you do. Leaving Las Vegas. No?
No, girl.
What?
No.
Shut up.
Sorry.
You don't know this?
Sorry. I usually am all over some Sheryl Crow.
Oh, well, we need to hurry up and wrap this episode so I can introduce you to it.
I guess so.
It's our anthem for today. So we are in the Paris Hotel and Resort in wonderful-ish Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, like it's okay.
It's heavy on the ish.
Yeah.
Right? It's a scene. It's its own thing.
I don't know if Vegas is my favorite place that I've been. I'm glad that I came. I've never been here before. That's kind of intentional because it doesn't really necessarily appeal to me, but I'm glad I came out. I saw a Cirque du Soleil show. Mm-hmm. I put $20 into a slot machine and lost $20.
Was that the only gambling you did?
Yeah, I hate gambling. And so I put $20 in and I lost it. And I was like, well, I can think of better ways to set money on fire than that.
I lost money at craps for the first time ever.
No.
I thought that craps was just this magical game where I show up and win all the time.
No, girl.
So why wouldn't I play that more often? I found out the hard way.
Yeah, gambling, it's not really my thing.
I kind of like it, but we are not here for gambling. We are here for FreedomFest, and that's been a real shit show, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I was prepared for it to be weird. I don't know that I was prepared for all of this.
No, I wasn't prepared for it either, and I've been here before.
Yeah, so to clarify, maybe we should talk a little bit about what FreedomFest is all about.
Okay, sure.
It's the biggest libertarian conference or one of the biggest ones?
Yeah. It's a little right-wingy on the libertarian, I guess, rainbow spectrum.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
There are more libertarian-ish events and conferences. So, for example, the Free State Project puts on Liberty Forum every year. That's, I would say, a little more hardcore libertarian than FreedomFest is. But it's a really big conference. They have it in Las Vegas every year. And this is the second time that I've come. Your first time here.
Yeah, this is my first time and my first libertarian event. Like, you are native to this, but I am more of an outsider.
Right. So, up until we started this workationing project, I was so libertarian that I moved to the state of New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project. And the Free State Project is a group or an organization that is dedicated to helping bring libertarians into the state of New Hampshire, which is already a pretty libertarian-leaning state, and just make it more free, which sounded good to me. I like freedom. Mm-hmm. So I took myself on up to New Hampshire, and I'm just kind of ready for my next adventure, but I'm still very much, I would say, integrated into this community. And I know that you got to hang out with a bunch of my libertarian friends out in New Hampshire when you were out there. And so you've met a lot of these people before.
I mean, this has been a fun week for me because there have been people here that, I already knew. So there's some friends that I've gotten to catch up with, and that's been cool. I'm glad that I came. I'm not a libertarian, but this has been, a big year of me really taking time to consider ideas and opinions that are different than my own. I think you don't even realize how much of an echo chamber you can get into when you're kind of in at home with your friends.
Even online, Facebook makes it really easy for you to stay in that echo chamber because it's algorithm that determines what shows up in your news feed is determined by all kinds of factors, including what your friends like and share. And so if your friends are of a similar, I guess, political ideology as you are, you're going to see a lot more of the type of news or the types of stories that
basically confirm your bias.
Exactly.
Already.
Yeah, just a little confirmation bias. Check it every morning before you go to work.
Yeah, and that's been a big theme this year for me. So it's been kind of cool to be able to hang out with people who come from a different background and a different viewpoint. And also, you were going to be here.
Yeah.
Why not? I'm always down for a crazy good time.
Right. And we did need to make that road trip.
Right. So here we are, and I got to, it's been great. I've been having a good time. It has been motherfucking weird, though.
Well, the first person that we saw, one of the first people, is that guy out in Acapulco who we had successfully avoided.
Right. Like, and just there he was looking, he's got like a real sharky look about him, and I don't think it's just the shiny suits. It's kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
A little moist looking.
Oh, God, that word.
I know you hate that word.
You did that on purpose.
But tell me he doesn't look a little moist.
Yeah, I mean, and there are stories about this guy online that you could Google, but when you Google, you find out that there are just a lot of allegations that maybe this guy might have taken a couple $1 million from people in the community.
No, it's really shocking to me that he gets to be a figurehead and like a voice. And granted, this is more of like the anarchy movement, not so much of the liberty movement, but they're related. And he really gets to go around and talk at a lot of conferences and crypto conferences and really gets to have a voice. And from what I can tell, this dude is just a slime ball.
Well, I mean, there was shady real estate deals that fell through, but also you get on that Google box and there's a lot of stuff that comes up about passport scams. So there are videos of people accusing this guy of scamming them out of money for passports, never receiving the passports. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and you can only see so much smoke before you wonder where the fire is.
Yeah. He's either a scam artist on some level or he's the unluckiest man on the entire planet.
Yeah.
And I just, the easiest answer is usually the right one.
Right. And I've heard a lot of stories about this guy, and we'll get into that later. But so the first thing we see is this guy. And got out of there pretty quick. Didn't hang out too long.
No, I was in and out.
We have somewhere to be right now.
Just a quick, clammy handshake. And then I was like, I got to go, brother. Good to see you.
Yeah, he's fun to watch online.
No, I'm obsessed with his online presence. Like literally, I can't believe this person exists. And it's just a real source of endless entertainment for me.
He gave himself a coffee enema on Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm. That was a real blessing.
That was.
I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in my life.
I just didn't see. He said he was going to do it, and I was like, "Nah, that's not really gonna." Yeah, he did it.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
So later on that day, or maybe it was the next day, I had gone to meet Redacted. Redacted is here, so we went to go catch up at the bar, and I had left you with a guy that I had seen around. Like, I know, I'm familiar with this guy. We're friends on Facebook. See him around at some conferences. Thought you were in good hands.
Yeah, girl. The men are a little aggressive.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what this podcast episode is going to be about, because Kelly and I had some really bizarre and unsettling experiences here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, this is something, I think we've even touched on this before. Definitely conferences in general are a place where I feel like it's not just us. I think lots of women just generally get kind of skeezed on.
Right.
Like, dudes sliding into your DMs, trying to hook up for drinks after. Like, there's always like a slight skis factor.
So I have run, in addition to just going to conferences in general, my agency manages PR and social media for conferences sometimes. So I regularly go to conferences as an attendee, but I also go to conferences to work them, because somebody has to get those retweets and media coverage. Might as well be us. So I was at one of these conferences, and I was actually managing PR for the conference, and I was speaking at the conference as well. And one of the attendees, who was an older man, I'm going to clock him at about 65, said he was really interested in potentially hiring my agency to manage PR and social media for his company. And so I gave him my business card, and we talked a little bit. And then later on that night, he starts texting me, because my cell phone number's on my business card.
Right.
And he wanted to get a nightcap. And when I ignored that, he called me at 11 o'clock at night.
Homie, no. Like, somebody better be goddamn dead. Somebody calls me at 11 o'clock at night.
No, I do not want to get a nightcap with you. That is not why I gave you my business card. And I think the next time I order business cards, I'm not going to have my cell phone on there. Because that was not the first time that had happened. That in a business context or a professional context and setting, somebody has taken that personal information to get a little creepy with it later.
Right. And it puts you in a really awkward position, because then this is like a business contact and you don't necessarily want to burn that. But at the same time, like, it puts you in a weird position. So here's what happened to me.
Day one of the conference.
Day one, let me just start by saying that this individual I don't think is a bad person, and I don't think he was necessarily trying to make me uncomfortable, but I think that this was probably more of a product of just the culture that exists around these types of conferences. And probably, I mean, I hate to say it, but among the liberty movement, I've seen a lot of this. It's just pretty highly accepted. So we sat down. It started out fine. We were just having a drink. And let's be clear, it's like 3-4 in the afternoon. This is my first drink, okay? Like, you know, this is a very like a slow roll kind of situation. Nobody was getting wild. And so we're having a drink, and at some point, this lady comes around to give massages, as they do in a casino. And I'm not really into massages, as you know.
You are not. I do.
But I don't like being touched by somebody that I don't really know. And then I can't relax. And then like they massage me and it just hurts.
Right.
I get bruised from it. And so I was just like, this kid bought my drink, which is like gentlemanly and acceptable. That's fine. But then this lady comes by to offer massages, and he's like, oh, I'll buy you a massage. And I'm like, first of all, that's a lot.
Because this is the first time you met him.
Right. It's just a lot. And also, like, I don't need a massage, and like, I don't like them. And I was just trying to explain, like, I'm not really into it, but thank you. And he goes, I shit you not. He goes, what about after you've gotten your pussy eaten? Then can you relax enough for a massage? And I was just like, this was in the middle of a crowded bar at a conference. There's all kinds of other people around. The massage lady is sitting right there.
I had introduced you to him.
Right. And I'm just like, well, so I don't really have like a lot of data points on that. I don't really know how I feel. You know, like I just didn't even know what to say.
Right.
It was just so fucking awkward and really unnecessary. You know what I mean? To just go that far with it that early. And what sucks is that, like I said, I kind of actually like this person. He seemed cool. He would have had a much better shot with me if he had just not taken it to that place. But I really don't appreciate being spoken that way by somebody who doesn't even fucking know me.
Right. No, that's a bit much. I agree with you. Yeah, it's I don't know, verbally violating.
Yeah, it's very fucking presumptuous.
Right. It's not good.
It's not. I really didn't like it or appreciate it.
So then the night after that, Kelly and I, so this has been just a several days long adventure in sequin dresses and sexual harassment.
Right.
And so the next day we had gone to, it was the karaoke event, wasn't it? And so at the karaoke event, we were looking good. We were having a good time. There were a lot of people there. And do you want to tell the story of the next guy who creeped on you?
Oh, yeah. This one is even more life affirming, really. This one makes me feel really good when I tell it, so I'm going to. So I sat down next to some gentlemen. There were a bunch of guys. I mean, not a bunch of guys. A bunch of people hanging out afterwards, kind of an after-party sitch at the main lobby bar. And I sat down with a group of people, and the gentleman I happened to sit next to turned to me and was like, hello. We shook hands. Turns out he is the president of a think tank, one that I've actually been to. So there was kind of
some overlap.
A weird connection there. It was random that I have been to his place of work. And we started talking, but very quickly, he let me know that what he really likes to do is to fly ladies around the world to meet him at various like exotic locations and like hang out with his friends for a week and, you know, just like have a lot of sex. And like, should I be interested, I could very much be in that rotation.
Okay.
And like, here's his business card.
That's a bit much. Was he offering to pay you on top of it or just to fly you around?
It wasn't. It was, he did not say that he would pay me. He talked about it in such a way that gave me the impression that he would.
Okay.
It was, you know, like in a Craigslist seeking ad when they're like, where they put a $sign in front of, instead of the S's.
Yeah.
I feel like there was like a verbal equivalent of that.
Okay.
Like like he didn't say that specifically. He did offer to pay for me to go.
And to be clear, this is another guy who does not fucking know you.
No. And just the assumption so quickly, like, let me clarify that I really don't have a problem with sex work on any level.
Right. I don't either.
And I feel pretty strongly about that, but I am not a sex worker. This was a professional event that I was attending in a professional capacity. Nothing about this communicated like offer me money for sex.
Right.
And it's really really insulting to have someone that you like sit down with just for like a normal conversation speak to you that way and like assume that that's fine.
Right.
And so I was just trying to like, you know, gracefully piece out of this situation. So I'm like, oh, my mother's calling me or whatever, you know, and stood up, and he goes to shake my hand, and I went to shake his hand, and he grabbed my hand and would not let go of my hand, and turns to the two guys next to him and is just like, look at these tits. Can you believe them? They're unbelievable.
And he's still holding your hand
While
at this
still
point.
holding my hand and not letting me leave, but talking about me like I'm not even there.
And just sexually objectifying you in front of a bunch of strangers. And what did these guys say?
They just kind of like, they didn't say anything.
Because
like,
they all heard it, right?
They all heard it, and they all just kind of like laughed, but nobody said anything, but nobody made eye contact with me or said anything to him about it. It was really like I wasn't there.
Or apologized for his behavior.
No.
There was no behavior correction at all, which is something that I've seen a lot of, and it's something we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the episode, but that's really infuriating to me. When somebody misbehaves so badly and treats a stranger in front of other people like what? I don't even know what that is. Like, you're a prostitute or there to be ogled? That's disgusting.
Right. And what really sucks about it, and why I hate telling the story, is because like it's humiliating to me. It's humiliating that it happened. It's humiliating that I continued to talk to him in a polite manner and shook his hand and didn't call him out and all of that. But really, I don't see how that was the right call for me. What really sucks when you're a woman who's put in that situation and it's made clear that all these men heard this and that they weren't going to do anything about it. So what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to call him out. I'm going to yell at him. I'm going to throw a drink in his face. What am I, like, literally, what is my course of action?
Well, if you do that, you're crazy and you cause a scene.
Right.
You're just viewed as crazy, I think. That's a no-win situation to cause a scene. You could tell him that was a dick thing to say. That's typically what I do, but then I have a story that we'll get to next.
Right.
Where I didn't do that in the moment. Typically I do. I'm real quick to tell somebody who's being a douchebag to fuck on off, but in the moment, and especially when you're taken by surprise by it.
Well, and also I was in a situation where the people that I knew people there, but I didn't know anyone that was like really sitting around me. Mm-hmm. It didn't seem like the right place for me to step up. I don't know these people. I didn't know what kind of situation I'd be getting myself into. And a lot of times it's easier to just walk away.
Right. Which is what you did.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to cause a scene or cause a problem.
Right. But you weren't trying to have that shit happen to you either.
No, I really wasn't. Well, I wasn't the only one who got propositioned.
No, girl. You didn't get to have all the fun in Las Vegas.
No, of course not.
I got some too. So Angela Keaton is here. Angela Keaton came out to visit us when we were in Puerto Rico earlier this year.
I love that lady.
I love AK too. And actually we saw her when we were in West Hollywood last year. So we're like travel buddies with AK.
Yeah, she's the best.
We meet up in all kinds of places that are not anybody's house. So Angela Keaton was there to give a talk, and we went to go see her panel discussion. And Angela was in the middle of the panel, and there were two men. The moderator didn't even introduce her until 20 minutes into the talk.
No, she was like a total afterthought.
It was ridiculous to watch. Before the whole thing even started, the other panelist, who had an interesting hat.
He was really going for an Indiana Jones thing. He was really trying to communicate some intellectualism and sexual prowess, I feel like, with that hat.
I didn't pick up that vibe.
Well, I wasn't catching it, but he was sure throwing it.
Okay, all right. He was trying to.
He was trying.
I think that was a wild pitch.
Yeah.
It was not on target, though.
No.
So the first thing he does before he gets on stage to go and talk on this panel is hand his phone to me. We've never talked. I've never met this man before. But he comes over and says, I am deputizing you to take photos of me during my panel discussion.
Yeah, like it wasn't even a question.
So, no, it was not a question. It was I need you to take photos of me. If you could make me look important, that would be great. And yeah, I'll come and collect
homie,
these
is it a
photos
magic
later.
camera? Like, what do you want me to do?
Well, and he obviously didn't think it out very well, because after he got on stage, I wasn't taking photos the entire time. I snapped one, put the phone down, and then it locked up. So he got one photo.
Right.
One photo. But I thought that was a kind of tacky thing to do. Like, I'm not your secretary.
Yeah, no, that shit drives me crazy.
Are you going to pay me to do this? I do this for a living, you know.
No, and he treated AK like a secretary, and she was on the panel.
It was disgusting. So AK got hardly any time to talk. She was talked over by this guy the entire time. And then when it finally gets, and he said all kinds of cute things. Like, what did he say to her? You're not wrong yet.
Yeah. He was like making like noises, just chortling noises while she finally gets to talk, and he's just making noises over there at everything she says. And she turns to him and is like, is there something you would like to add? And he's just like, oh, no, you're not wrong yet.
To be clear, Angela Keaton is the executive director of antiwar.com. She has a law degree and is just a couple credits shy of getting a PhD. I think she's a brilliant lady who came prepared, knew her shit. That guy kept bouncing off topic.
No, he was like up there to proselytize this whole other topic that was not even what we were there to talk about.
No, nobody asked for this.
And then AK shows up with like receipts and facts and focus and was barely even allowed to talk.
So then it comes to the Q&A section of the panel discussion, and somebody from the audience had a question, and the dude in the Crocodile Dundee hat couldn't answer it, but he knew that there was like something that you could Google to like get to the answer. So he deputized AK. And in the middle of answering the question said, hey, Google that real quick and then email the guy the answer. Like she was his goddamn secretary.
Right. No, that was really just the way that she was treated by that man, by the moderator, by the attendees in general was shocking to me.
Well, and there are not a lot of ladies speaking at this conference.
No.
It is stacked heavily male on a level that I think that the conference organizers should be embarrassed by.
Yeah, they really should, because there are a lot of women in the liberty movement. I know a lot of them who are brilliant and interesting and working on things that are timely and important. And why are they not speaking?
Right. And why are these men so comfortable just talking over their equals in this professional setting?
Right. Because they don't treat them like equals.
No. And that was just kind of readily clear. So after the panel wraps, Angela Keaton and I are walking to our next destination. And we run into this old guy who I'm going to clock this one at 75. He was older. He was a pretty old guy. Mm-hmm. And we had sat next to him during a different talk the day before. And he seemed harmless, just a harmless old guy who seemed nice enough and was just very interested in the subject matter. And so on the way out, he comes up to us and greets us and wants to know if we would like to be his female companions, his escorts, with this guy friend that he has. They're looking for some female companionship tonight.
That is so gross. There is a way to ask a lady if she would like to join you for a show, and there was a way to ask a lady to basically blow you in exchange for a show.
Right.
And calling her a female companion is really how you communicate that difference.
No, it was very clear what he was getting after. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And Angela picked up on it right away too. She was horrified. I was grossed out. What about me and the way that I'm behaving, or what about this situation says that I am a prostitute that you can solicit?
Right. Like Angela was there to literally give a talk on NATO based on her career's worth of knowledge and experience. How do you feel emboldened to go up to this lady afterwards and ask her if she would like to be your escort for the evening?
I couldn't believe it. It was so degrading. It was so degrading. You're going to sit and listen to her talk, and then as soon as it's over, come up and try and make her your prostitute?
It's just horrifying. Really.
No, and what did his friend even... Who was this friend? Because he had one for me, too. You know,
lucky girl.
You know, I had somewhere else to be that night. Literally anywhere else.
Just any other place, girl.
Anywhere but there. And so we turned down his offer, and I look forward to never seeing that guy again.
Yeah, it really blows my mind that we were both separately in very different contexts basically offered money for sex. That has never happened to me.
No, that has never happened to me before either.
You and I both are people who get ourselves into weird situations and maybe follow a weird story a little further. Like most people would have tapped out, but we keep going sometimes just to see what's going to be weird. And that still has never happened to me.
No, never. Never, ever.
I know that I don't exactly like radiate wholesome energy, but I think that it's a little much.
I thought we looked very professional at that conference. actually. There was nothing about us that we did not look like ladies of the night.
No. Well, and that's what drives me crazy about this whole thing is that then you start thinking, like, well,
what did I do to deserve
what did I
this?
do? What did I do to communicate this to other people? And that's like, I know that's like a toxic headspace, but especially with that guy, it was like I was wearing a short sequin dress, and yes, my tits were pretty fully out.
It's Vegas.
It was Vegas, god damn it. I rented the runway. I've lost a ton of weight and I'd been just wasting away in Acapulco. I was ready to do my hair and look pretty, and I think I'm allowed
to do that without being propositioned for some sort of prostitute situation. I feel like, yes.
Right. And like, trust that, yeah, I wanted to look hot and like I had a lot of cleave going, and like that is my right as a woman. But none of that gives you the right to physically restrain me and talk about me like I'm an object.
Right.
You know what I mean? Ogle away. They're here. I put them out. I didn't put them out here so you wouldn't look at them. But there's a way to feel sexual interest and express sexual interest that does not treat the other person like an object.
Right. And these guys at this conference were just failing left and right at that.
Yeah. It was creepy.
Right. So let's talk about last night. Last night, the final night of the conference, there was a big gala event to close out the conference. It was Steve Forbes' 70th birthday. We snapped a good photo with Steve.
Yeah, that was actually really cool. And he gave a pretty cool talk, a little speech, a birthday speech. And it was just really interesting to hear about, his career and his thoughts on things. It was a cool experience. Like he's had a remarkable career.
That part was very cool. We looked great that night.
We did. We were feeling real sassy, more sequins. It was a very sequin week. We went in Vegas.
Right.
Like literally, when else do I get to wear a sequin dress?
New Year's, I think.
Yeah, that's really it.
That's it. So we had a get ready party in our hotel room, and there were a half dozen other ladies in the room all getting ready to
we
go to
love
this
a good
event.
get ready party though.
Yes,
like
yeah.
it's like our goal at any kind of event like this, that the ladies all end up in our room. We have just a great time. Do each other's hair,
have a glass of wine, because if you're going to be doing all that unpaid labor, you might as well.
Yeah,
it takes 2 hours to get ready from start to finish for something like that.
It really does. And it's more fun to have all the ladies. We just laugh and have some wine and
tell some stories.
Swap lipstick. You know what I mean?
Swap lipstick. Yes. We literally braided each other's hair. So we got to telling stories, and we talked about what had happened to us at the conference so far. And it was one of those situations where nobody was trying to one-up one another. It wasn't that, but there were just a lot of one-ups. It was really sad and disgusting to hear.
Right. It was striking how like no one was surprised about our stories. No one was like, oh my God. They were
no,
like,
of course you're a proposition. That hasn't happened to you before?
Right. It's just like, that's what happens at these events.
Yeah. Oh, is this the first time a stranger's offered to eat your pussy?
Right? Like,
that has never happened to me before.
It was really intense. It's a lot. It's a lot. There are steps in between. I'm by no means a prude, but it's just like I've been sitting here with you for 5 fucking minutes.
Right. So the stories that we heard ranged in nature, but there were just a lot of them. And it seems like every time I'm at one of these Liberty events, there are ladies in a room exchanging information and telling stories about the creepers in the group so that other women will stay away from them.
Right.
Because what holds people back from going public with their experiences and really calling these assholes out by name is, in a lot of cases, it's a he said, she said situation. In a lot of cases, the men are more high profile than the ladies and have the rabid social media followers that go along with that. And that is particularly true in the libertarian space, and especially true in the like alt-right fringy.
Right. Well, and then when they're the only ones who are given a speaking slot at something like this, like that's like a kind of a self-perpetuating cycle that the people at the top are men mostly.
Right. So we've heard stories of lots of creeping and stalking, sliding into your Twitter DMs with some bullshit.
Yeah.
Nobody asked for.
Yeah. The low grade creeping and stalking, I think, is pretty pervasive.
In some cases, it goes a little higher grade on the stalking end. Some of these guys are married. Don't tell my wife I'm doing this. I just couldn't resist. What is that about?
Yeah, gross.
That is really, really gross. I've heard of way too many stories of physical abuse.
Yeah, what worries me about the physical abuse thing is that the people who were named in those stories are high-profile people, and also this seemed to have been common knowledge among a lot of people in the movement. It wasn't like this was some secret.
No.
People knew that these guys were doing this, and no one did anything about it. And no one said anything about it. They were continually accepted and elevated in the space.
Right. And those rumors of misconduct, could just be rumors. Let's just not investigate that too closely.
Right.
The stories of physical abuse, there, like I said, there were a lot of them. And that was real difficult to hear. The worst one is a story of a guy who would go to these parties and hang out with ladies who didn't have the greatest reputations, wait until they got drunk, and then would offer to let them crash at his house. And then the ladies would wake up and he would be going down on them.
Ugh.
We're talking like full-on sexual assault.
Right.
And not that this makes a difference at all, but the guy is huge and very unfortunate looking. And I just can't even imagine the horror of such a large man violating me like that. But the point is, he was able to do this, so the story goes, to 7 different women. And it's because after it had happened, the ladies were too embarrassed. They thought it was a he said, she said situation. The guy was a donor to a lot of liberty causes, I guess. And like I said, they didn't have the best reputations. It sounded to me like he really picked these ladies based on their unlikeliness to come forward, given the circumstances of the situation.
Right.
So,
well, that's what predators do.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not easy for ladies to go to the police with this kind of with this for all kinds of reasons. The court cases are not fun for the victims.
Right.
They really put the victim on trial in a lot of ways. I don't really have an answer to that.
No, the way that sexual assault is dealt with in this country is really horrifying. Most cities, like most major cities, are literal years behind in even checking their rape kits. For whatever reason, the money is never put towards it. So even women who do go and report their rape and do all of this and they have a rape kit on them, unless there's unless it really gets pushed through, a lot of those will sit for literal years. Like they have the DNA of the person who this lady says raped her, and the kit just sits there and no one ever tests it even. And I've actually learned a lot about this over the years because a few years ago, I've always been really open about the fact I've been raped twice. And I talk about it because people usually don't. And then as a result of that, I would say maybe a little less than once a month, but at least like probably 10-ish times a year, I get somebody in my Facebook inbox or someone that like I know either like tangentially or maybe even someone I've known for a really long time who writes to me to say that they were raped or that they were sexually assaulted. They've never told anyone before or it just happened or something like that, and like asking for my advice just because I talk about it. And the thing that I find again and again is that these people go to the police and then the police are like either talk them out of it. Sometimes even like they'll go to a therapist and a therapist will talk them out of it. And I never really know what to say because you want to encourage somebody to report it, but at the same time, I never reported mine. It's not really a regret that I have because what you go through when you report it is so insane.
Right.
That it's like not, a lot of times it's like, fuck it, just move on with your life, you know?
Well, the consequences of that are that the guy could potentially go on to harm other women. And
right.
The story goes that's exactly what happened. And this guy got run out of the state he lived in once it became kind of public knowledge. But even then it was really quiet. And people months after the fact were surprised to hear that this had even happened. And so there's a real lack of knowledge sharing when it comes to the reputations of people who creep on and in some extreme cases go so far as to sexually assault women. And I am sure that that's a widespread, pervasive problem, not just in the liberty movement. However, I think that there are some key factors that dial it up a little bit more in the libertarian space.
What do you think those are?
I think the fact that there are just more men in the movement.
Yeah, I'll say that. It has a similar vibe to it as I used to do stand-up comedy. And that's a very male-dominated space. And the shit that would go on, like I quit comedy and I loved comedy. But I just wasn't willing to be in such like a male-dominated space all the time because like people just felt real fucking empowered.
Right.
To be creeps, to say fucked up shit, to just really create an environment that was really hostile to any kind of a woman who wanted to be involved.
Right. I think that there's some of that going on. I also, with the story of the guy who asked if you could relax for a massage after you've had your pussy eaten.
Right.
So I can hear some people in my head saying, well, at least he asked. It wasn't the most couth way to make his sexual interest in you known.
Right.
But he didn't cross any physical boundaries, and maybe he's just real awkward. You know, maybe he thought he was being sexy. Like, I think that there are a lot of people in the liberty movement who would just kind of brush that away.
Well, and to be clear, though, in a way, I kind of did brush it away. I continued to talk to this person. Like,
right.
I was just surprised that anyone felt that comfortable. You know what I mean? You have to understand that I'm a pretty confident person and I'm a pretty open person. It's pretty hard to shock me, really.
Right.
I'm not somebody who like is going around looking to be offended. It's not really my MO. But when someone talks to you that way, it's really dehumanizing.
It is. And it's incredibly disrespectful and jarring.
Yeah. It just like, it really lets you know where you stand in that situation. And I really dislike being spoken to that way.
I am not a fan of these sleazeballs being invited to speak at events.
No, there are some of these people that are well-known offenders. What drives me crazy, it's not just the women, but the men too. There are several people who, if you're listening to this and you're in the movement, you can probably know exactly who I'm talking about, because everyone knows that they're slime balls. The first thing anyone will say about this handful of people is that they're fucking slime balls.
Yeah.
And yet they are the face of the movement. And everyone is for some reason okay with that.
Right. And what kind of people does that draw to the movement?
Right.
There's this age-old question. Why aren't there more women in libertarianism? Well, guys, I think I know.
Yeah, it's not a real mystery.
No.
As a woman who's gone to this and spent some time, and I can tell you there's no mystery. Because there are some things, I've learned a lot. I've shifted my political beliefs a bit, you know, like there are some ways in which I feel aligned with the liberty movement. Mm-hmm. But like, I wouldn't get involved because I don't got time in my day, girl.
No. And I have gotten involved. I've done all kinds of things. I mean, my protest signs have been featured in documentaries. I got the Wall Street Journal to talk about jury nullification. Like, I have done some cool things in the libertarian space since I've been here. I haven't just been sitting on my ass. I've been an actual activist. And I have receipts showing the results of that activist work, right? But I don't want to go to events anymore where somebody calls me the PR babe.
Right, exactly.
That's not what I am, actually. And if that's what you're going to reduce me to when you introduce me to new people, I don't want to be around those people anymore.
Right. And like, literally, what's the point of everything that you've done? I mean, I know that you're not doing it for accolades or whatever, but when you really give your time and effort to something that you care about a lot, and then you still just get reduced to some sort of like fuck puppet.
Right.
It's just like, okay, why? You know, like, why would you bother?
Yeah, there are plenty of other environments I could be in and do good work in that I'm not going to have to put up with this amount of this level of bullshit.
Right.
And so that's something that I've been kind of kicking around in my head. But I would like to map out some sort of course of action to turn this around, because I think that, quite frankly, the libertarian space does a real shit job of eating its own.
Yeah.
We don't need to have that big of a tent. I don't think the alt-right and all the red pillars and misogynists and Nazi types that come with that, I don't think that the tent is big enough for those people.
No, those people can just fuck right off. And honestly, the liberty movement should do that, not just because those people are distasteful and it's the right thing to do, but because, you know, as we love to say, you're never going to get anywhere hoeing like that.
You are not.
You know what I mean?
No.
Like, if you let every creeper in the door, like, really try to build a movement that's ever going to have any real influence or lasting impact, when you just let every single skeezer through the door and empower them to act just as horribly as they feel that they would like to.
Right.
That's not going to go well for anyone.
No, and it's also going to just continue to attract, like a magnet, more of those types of people while driving out the good people.
Right.
I don't have any space in my tent for any misogynists or Nazi types.
No. Huh, girl.
It's a lot. So, like, what's the next course of action? I think that there are some actionable steps that people could take to reduce the frequency at which this type of stuff happens.
Yeah.
So, for one, I am really sick of being the only person whenever I hear somebody say something creepy to say, well, that was fucked up. Why do you think that it's okay to talk like that? And then hear what they say. They usually get all mumble-mouthed and apologize because it's not funny, and they need to be told that that's not funny. It's not cute. It's not how we act around here. More often than not, I am the only person to stand up, or I'm the first person at least to shut up a creeper when I see him doing it to somebody else. But there are almost always other men in the room, and they never say anything.
No, because it's hard. Like, every time someone does that, like, treats me like an object or something like that, then, like, every time you do that to a woman, then that woman is then put in the position where now she has to deal with it.
Right.
In one way or another. Mm-hmm. You either have to choose to suck it up and just deal with it. And there is a cost to that as well. Mm-hmm. Because believe that I sit around feeling like shit about myself when I don't say something.
Right.
But at the same time, this is somebody, I was just going about my day and someone did this. I'm not always in the mood to, like, jump on my feminist soapbox and, like, really read somebody. I'm not always in the mood to fight back. And sometimes, like, who's that congresswoman who, like, she basically became a meme with that, like, I'm reclaiming my time.
Right.
You know, sometimes somebody says that shit to me and I could get into it with them, but I'm reclaiming my time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just because you said this to me doesn't mean that I need to engage.
Right. And add into that mix the fact that a lot of ladies in the libertarian space run some sort of nonprofit.
Right.
So in the instance of the guy who approached Angela Keaton and I and offered to make us escorts for the evening, he could have been a donor. He had all of the signs and was acting like he was going to write her a check, you know? Didn't know that check was going to have
services rendered.
Right, exactly. Have some sort of strings attached. But when you're a lady trying to raise funds for a cause that you believe in, and some asshole with a checkbook wants to creep on you a little, at what point do you take the check? At what point do you tell him to fuck off? At what point do you run the math and realize exactly what that money could do for your organization and walk away from it? It's something that I don't have to deal with. But I know ladies who work in the nonprofit space, and it's something that they constantly struggle with.
Right, because their job is to go out and get that money.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, those donors or people who insinuate that they might become a donor, they can suddenly kind of, like, buy that lady's time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're not even buying it. They're, like, taking it up with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And a lot of guys do take advantage of that, and it's fucked up. And that sucks because those ladies who are working in that, like, in the nonprofit space, they're doing God's work. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, they're really doing shit that matters, and they're doing it for less money than they could make in the private sector.
Yep.
And it sucks.
And they get to deal with just sexual harassment with the side of maybe I might donate. It's not a good place to be. I feel really bad for those ladies.
Right. Which is why, so I really think that what matters is that men need to start checking each other.
That's 100% what needs to happen. And they need to do it publicly in the instance it happens. I'm not saying that ladies aren't capable of standing up for themselves and that we all need to be white knighted, but God, it feels good to be stood up for when you're really tired of standing up for yourself all the time. Because you've been confronted with some bullshit that you never asked for, didn't deserve, and you're, like, humiliated in front of all these people you don't know?
Well, and here's the other thing, is that at the point that a man makes it clear that he is 100% willing to treat a woman like an object, he has already made it clear that her opinion and her feelings and everything else doesn't matter.
Right.
And so for that woman to then speak up, like, how much of a difference is that really going to make? Because he's already demonstrated that he doesn't even see her as a full human.
No, probably doesn't hold a lot of value in what you might have to say.
Right. And so what you need in that situation is for a man to speak up, because you're not going to change his mind. You know, you don't need to launch into a whole thing about why it's right or wrong. You just need to make it clear that it's not accepted.
Right. And this goes for men outside of the libertarian space, too. This is just good protocol.
Right.
See something, say something. Don't let people get away with that kind of behavior because it emboldens them to do it again. They think that you're in on it, and you look like almost as much of an asshole as the guy who might have said the crude thing.
Right. Because, like, those guys who were quiet when that guy was holding my hand and talking about my tits.
Yeah.
That dude, like, those other guys might have been horrified and feeling really bad for me. But all I got from them was that they were complicit in it, and it made me even more uncomfortable and made me feel even more like I couldn't say something.
Right.
All of their feels for me, if they had any, don't do anything. They don't help me at all.
They're doing themselves a disservice by putting up with this bullshit.
They really are, because it lets in an element, and it has let in an element.
Yes, it has.
This element exists, and it's a problem that makes it really unfriendly for women. And when you're talking about, you don't even have to really give a shit about misogyny or any of that. What you should, at least I would assume, give a shit about is that, like, if this is a movement that you actually care about and you're just going to go ahead and alienate half the population when you're already having trouble getting traction in the first place, like, logistically, if this is actually what you care about, you should be sticking up for women.
Yes, because they're just going to walk in and right back out that door if this behavior continues to go unchecked.
Yeah, because it is. I agree with you that it's not just liberty movement. I see a lot of this stuff in any kind of place where there's power dynamics or politics or anything, but it's extra bad. It's extra bad here.
Yeah, I've done some political stuff out in New Hampshire, and I can tell you that I didn't have a great time with the Republicans either.
I've done a lot of stuff with the Democrats, and I can tell you that there were plenty of skeezers and people acting inappropriately.
I really am 100% of the belief that it is dialed up more in the liberty space, though.
It is. It's just there's like a tolerance for all kinds of stuff. But I feel like if your thing is that you don't want the state regulating behavior and that sort of thing, I don't think that I think that only puts more of a burden on you to regulate your own communities.
Yeah, and I think that the liberty space is doing a piss poor job of that. I'm not excited to say that. I feel bad saying it. I would love nothing more than for more people to believe in personal freedom and financial responsibility. It seems like a good path to me. Got me in the door. But like I said, I'm on my way out, I think, because it's just too much for me.
Yeah. I mean, we've spent so much time this year talking about living intentionally and creating lives that we want. And I personally just don't, and I know you don't either, like, I don't want to spend a lot of time around people who behave this way or in situations where I feel really uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, nobody has time for that.
No, in the headspace it eats up, we've been talking about almost nothing but the fact that each of us were treated like prostitutes for no discernible reason.
Right. Well, that doesn't happen to me a lot, girl.
No, no. First time for me too, as we've discussed. I was shocked. You know, one time I was in a strip club and one of the guys there thought I was a stripper and asked me for a lap dance. I was on my way to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And I was actually kind of flattered by that. It was my birthday.
Right.
It was just like a fun birthday treat. In that setting, all right.
Well, and if
you
you're
confuse me for a stripper, right. Okay, all right. But at a conference? And you want to call me a prostitute? Totally different situation.
Yeah, no, that was
extra.
That was a lot. I do think we should before we close out, we should mention that we did have one gentleman who treated us very well and bought our drinks and was very charming.
Who was this?
Oh, girl, don't tell me you forgot our date with Vin Armani.
I can't believe we almost forgot to talk about this, because speaking of prostitutes, Kelly and I went out to lunch with one.
Yes.
With the Vin Armani from the show Gigolos, which I've seen every single episode of, and Vin has always been my favorite.
He's the hot one.
He is. Sure. He's smart.
He is smart. So we heard that our friend Matt was going to be having lunch with Vin Armani. Mm-hmm. And so we just informed Matt that we would be stopping by.
Yeah, I'm going to crash that. Where are you at?
Right. Like, just casually walking by this place that you have to, like, walk through this restaurant to even get to where you are.
Yeah, it was in a back corner.
Yeah, just like, oh, funny meeting you here.
Yeah, I had no idea you were going to be here, Matt, and who is your friend?
But he was very polite and, like, asked us, wanted to stay, and, like, of course. We're, like, already sitting. We're just like, well, yes.
Yes. I was like, well, no. Yeah, okay, definitely.
Yeah, twist my arm. And he paid for the drinks and he's got a book coming out.
Yes, he's got a podcast.
Very charming.
Super charming. I sat next to him. I got to sit next to him. You got to sit across from him. I don't know which of us had the better situation going.
I got a lot of eye contact, and I got to tell you, it was good for me.
He touched my arm twice, you know?
No, he really knows how to treat a lady.
You can tell. He's married now.
He is. And he talked about his wife. She sounds great.
Yeah. He might be moving to New Hampshire, actually. But
a real gentleman.
That was fun. That's a life experience. I remember watching that show years ago and thinking like, could I get a male prostitute? I don't know. Maybe if he looked like Vin or Armani. And then I got to see him in the flesh and it was just...
No, I can see why ladies do it.
I'm blushing just thinking
he
about it.
really gives you the boyfriend experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Just really complimentary too. I have nothing but nice things to say about that man. It was
I was impressed. He's very intelligent and articulate. And we had a lovely time giggling and trying not to be too awkward.
Don't know what a classy man like that is doing running around with these libertarian types.
Right? Like he could really teach these dudes a thing or two.
I think so.
On how to approach a lady.
I should tell him he needs to create some sort of seminar. Maybe he can give a talk at next year's FreedomFest that I won't be at.
Right.
And maybe teach these dudes how to behave.
Yeah.
So next up, we've got Prague.
Yes. I'm excited to start this European leg. We've really been looking forward to this.
Yes. So tomorrow morning, we board a flight to Prague, and I think we're going to be out in Europe for the rest of the year. We've got some dates lined up already.
Oh, right.
I've got a cute guy in Amsterdam I'm excited about.
Yeah, there's a guy in Amsterdam I'm excited to have a date with. I pre-Tindered a little bit.
As you do. As you do. Ladies, if you travel a lot, upgrade your Tinder account. Plan ahead. Scope out the local talent.
Yeah.
Kelly and I have had a time doing that.
Yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of just fun, beardy looking dudes out there.
The style game is on point.
It is. I'm ready to go have a European time and leave this weird little chapter behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the next time I come to Vegas, it'll be when we dig up Dom.
Yes.
All right, so let's get to packing.
Yeah, we got to pack it up. This has been another episode of the Workationing Podcast. If you like what you've heard here, please consider donating at patreon.com/workationing. That's patreon.com. All proceeds will go towards funding our bucket list items.
To keep up with us in real time, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at Workationing. Or on our website at, you guessed it, workationing.com. That's workationing.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode.